Hello everyone, welcome to Everything Arsenal, and this is the latest news updates. A lot to get into as always, including the latest on Ivan Toney and Alexander Isak. What's the latest on those deals or those targets? The latest on Benjamin Cesco. Arsenal have now put 7 players on the transfer list. We're going to be talking about all of them. Aaron Ramsdale as well. What's the latest on his situation? So we'll be covering all of that. Now, we're actually fighting for the title still. It doesn't feel like it because 98% of the Premier League fan base have already confirmed Man City as the Premier League champion. So it doesn't feel like we're actually fighting for the title tomorrow, but we actually are. So let's hope things go away because that would be absolutely crazy if it actually happened. But for now, let's focus on these news updates. We will be covering that match tomorrow as always. Let's start with this one from John Cross of the Mirror about Ivan Toney and Isak. So this is what he had to say. Arsenal's interest in Ivan Toney has now waned. It is highly unlikely he will sign for Arsenal this summer. Neither will Alexander Isak. Arsenal monitored the player when he went to Newcastle, but no longer retain an interest, especially not at the mooted 120 million price. Now, let's start with Toney first. Toney was the striker we wanted this past January. He's a striker who was linked to clubs like Chelsea as well. He kind of like dropped off at the end of the season. He hasn't scored he hasn't scored a lot of goals recently. I think he's on somehow sort of a drought. And in terms of interest, the interest has cooled down from Arsenal and every other team as well. Now, I'd not be surprised if he ended up staying at Brentford. I'd also not be surprised if he ended up leaving Brentford for a different team, not necessarily at an Arsenal or Chelsea or Man United. You never know. You might end up at a Liverpool. You might even end up at a West Ham. I even think maybe it might not end up at a Liverpool. I'm thinking somewhere in the middle of the Premier League table, around between 6th and 10th. He might end up there, or he might decide to stay at Brentford. But I think the way it's going and everything is down for Brentford, I think it would be better for him to move on. Why he's going to move on, I don't have absolutely no idea now. I'm still thinking he's going to move on to a different Premier League team, but that team might not be Arsenal, as John Cross of the Mirror has confirmed. That definitely, we've not heard anything about Toney recently. Now, many of you would also say maybe don't want Toney. Now, if I was to ask you your top target in terms of a striker, if you had to sign any striker, I think very few of you would say Toney, but if it was 8 months ago, many of you would have said Toney. But now other strikers have popped up and other ideas have popped up. So people are thinking about other strikers, and Ivan Toney is no longer on that list. Now, the kind of striker we are looking for, again, it depends on what Arteta is looking for. Are we just looking for someone who's going to stay in the box? Are we looking for someone like a Gyökeres who's going to get the goals in the assists? Someone like a Watkins who's going to contribute in terms of both goals and assists? Are we looking for a striker who's going to also play as a winger? It depends on what you're looking for. And in terms of taking it to the next level, we might have to get 92, 93 points, 94 points to win that league title, because I feel like Man City are going to get even stronger next season. So you're looking at around 30 wins minimum in that Premier League title. So that would be crazy. 30 wins, 4 draws, 4 losses, that could do it for you. And even 4 losses, you can argue that is a lot. If you drop that down to 30 wins and 5 draws and maybe 3 losses, that is probably what you'll need to do to win the league title. And will Ivan Toney take it to that complete next step? Because right now we're still breaking records in terms of scoring goals, we're breaking records in terms of keeping clean sheets, breaking records in terms of picking up wins. Havertz has done incredibly well, Trossard has done incredibly well, and this is in a season where Martinelli and Jesus haven't been really that great. If they stay next to and they up the numbers as well, we'll need someone to take us to the next level. And maybe at the time they do feel like Toney's not really that answer, and maybe it's the same as what we have right now. I don't know, but that interest has cooled down. So that's the latest on Ivan Toney. What about Alex Isak? Now, this is what John Cross says as well. Neither will Alexander Isak. Arsenal monitored the player, but the problem is the 120 million price that Newcastle have set for him. Now, for me, 120 million is a lot of money. They signed him for around 70 million. I still do think if they'd say 70, 80 million, I think it's worth that. But obviously, they signed him for 70 million, and since he came to the Premier League, it looks like he's gotten even much better. So obviously, they would sell 100 million. They would add 20 million on top of that. But they've added around 50 million on top of that. And I think they don't really want to sell him. I'm not sure. I don't think Isak would want to leave there unless something happens on the final day. Man United win their final game and Newcastle lose their final game, and Man United go to the Conference League and Newcastle end up without any European competition. then maybe he might say, listen, I want to move on. And if he becomes available, I don't think Man City would want him because they already have Haaland. I'm not sure if Liverpool would want him. Man United already bought Højlund recently. Chelsea already bought Jackson recently. It would be probably us who want him, depending on who we sell, if it's the likes of getting those kind of players. So Alexander Isak, 120 million is still too much. What I was thinking is, if they want Ramsdale, if they want players like maybe an Nketiah or someone, a swap deal maybe. You give them a player and then you add maybe 60 million or something, but I still think they would reject that because Isak has been great. But my worry in terms of 120 million is the few injuries he's picked up here and there. If it's 120 million, I want a player who's going to play almost every single day. That applies to someone like a Declan Rice and even Caicedo at Chelsea. I want someone who's always going to be there. For that price, I don't want a player who's going to play 7 games and then miss 2 games and then play 10 games and then miss 3 games. Injuries can happen, but I'm talking about those niggly injuries where he picks up a knock and is out for 2 games, or he has a reoccurring injury. We don't really want a player like that for that kind of money. And the reason recently we've bought players who were always fit. Timber got injured, but before that, he was clean, like totally in terms of injury. Havertz and Rice, you can play them every single day. So those are the kind of players we want, players who are always going to be available. And for 120 million, I think that's too much for Alexander Isak. Now, things can change between now and when the transfer window opens on June 14th. Things could change, but let's see. But unless some of you would want to pay that, would you guys pay 120 million for Isak? Or do you think that is too much? Now, Isak would have been my option in terms of first choice, in terms of the ones we've been linked to. If you have to ask me like a random striker, I would say Watkins. But for the ones we've been linked to, Isak is top. Would be top of my list. Now, the one that is the striker that has emerged as our top target recently, sorry, it's Benjamin Cesco. This is what I talked about yesterday. Benjamin Cesco is now Arsenal's priority up front, with the club ready to pay his 50 million release clause. Sources have informed Court Offside that negotiations over a 4-year contract with the option of a 5th year on top of that are progressing. Now, if a player like Cesco signed for Arsenal and then, he keeps up his numbers like he has this year, we're going to go through that. That would really help us out. Like if you get a striker like Cesco for 50 million euros, that is around 40 something million pounds, and he hits the ground running and he gets you those 20 plus goals we've been asking for, that would be such a bargain. Because recently we've been able to get a lot of bargains in Odegaard, in Gabriel, in obviously Trossard, in those kind of players. If you get another one in terms of a striker when everyone else is competing for 120 million strikers that might end up becoming flops, would be in such a great position. So Benjamin Cesco, he's the one that is a priority for Arteta. He wouldn't have been in my top 2 list of strikers that I would have wanted. But look at this record. Look at what Fabrizio says, and his record. He actually just scored today as well, Benjamin Cesco. Now look at his record. This is just this year. This is what Fabrizio says. Benjamin Cesco scores again, and it's a goal or assist in each Bundesliga game he started since January 27th. 11 goals, 2 assists in 13 games, all in separate games. He scored against Stuttgart, scored against Union Berlin, scored against Augsburg, scored against Bayern, assisted against both Bochum and Cologne, then scored in 7 games in a row, actually. Freiburg, Wolfsburg, Heidenheim, Dortmund, Hoffenheim, Werder Bremen, and Frankfurt. So that record is incredible. 13 goal returns in 13 games. His numbers are up, so I see maybe why at the time they are looking at that. He's been incredible. Obviously, you can argue as well that Gyökeres has been really, really good this year. His numbers have been incredible the whole entire season. But Cesco, maybe that's the kind of age we're looking for. And in terms of fee, Gyökeres would be more expensive than Cesco. And Cesco this year has been providing the numbers. We just want a striker who's going to be consistent and just want to score and is going to provide the numbers every single game. That is what we want. If a one chance falls to him when we're 0-0 against Man City or Liverpool and he can take it, that would be great for us. Now, plays for Slovenia. We're going to see him playing in the Euros. I think they're in the same group with England, Serbia, and I think Denmark. I'm sure about Slovenia, England, and Serbia. I think the 4th one could be Denmark. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, those 3 first ones I'm sure. So we will see him playing against England. I think that would be the 3rd group match between England and Slovenia. So it'd be very interesting to see how Cesco does, and we will get to see him at the Euros. So make sure to check that one out if we haven't signed him by by then. So that one is going to be very, very interesting, but he looks like it's going to be a priority. The Gyökeres one has gone quiet, but it might pop up again because we've not been told that you're not going to sign him. So he might pop back up if you want him. Now, in terms of Aaron Ramsdale, next up, Aaron Ramsdale. We talked about him yesterday, but this is the latest that has come out today from Sam Jadin. And look, Newcastle United are interested in Arsenal goalkeeper Aaron Ramsdale and will make a move for him this summer. Deal not agreed, but hopeful it will be. Now, they're talking about 15 million. Yes, 1-5. If you had to sell Ramsdale last season, like in the middle of the season, last January, actually, January, February of last year, would have asked for like 60 million for Aaron Ramsdale. But considering he hasn't been playing games this year and the games that he has played, it hasn't really worked out. Like, a mistake against Brentford at home, a couple of mistakes against Brentford away. So his values have kind of diminished, unfortunately. But I would think 50 million is too little, man. Remember when you wanted to sell Leno? We wanted to sell Leno, and Fulham are talking about 8 million, 7 million, even 5 million at some point. So these goalkeepers have been really good for Arsenal. So I would say at least 20 million. But if they don't want to pay it, I don't know, man. Personally, I would be happy to keep him, but that depends if he wants to stay. That is the problem. You don't want a goalkeeper who doesn't want to stay. You will have to move on. But 15 million is what Newcastle are offering. Would you guys be willing to sell him for 15 million? I don't know. I feel like that is very, very little. Now, he's not the only player who will be leaving Arsenal if he does end up leaving. There's many, many more others. And this is what has been reported today by Ryan Taylor Sport. Arsenal are ready to listen to offers for at least 7 players this summer. Aaron Ramsdale, Aiden Nketiah, Emil Smith-Rowe, Kieran Tierney, Nuno Tavares, Albert Sambi-Lokonga, Reece Nelson as Mikel Arteta strives to improve the depth of his squad. Now, I already talked about Aaron Ramsdale. I've given you my thoughts on that. I would keep him if I had the choice to, if he wanted to stay. Now, for Aiden Nketiah, there was talks about Arsenal wanting 30-something million for him. I don't know if someone is going to pay for that, considering like over the last 3 months, he rarely plays, doesn't even come on, because we bring on Martinelli from the bench, we bring on Jorginho from the bench, sometimes we bring on Partey from the bench, sometimes Kivia from the bench, Zinchenko. So it doesn't really even come on, because when Havertz is going off, Jesus can come in. So Nketiah doesn't really get a chance to play. And this is a player that I think most of the Arsenal fan base would agree it's time to move on. But depending on how much you're going to get for him, would Newcastle want someone like Nketiah? I doubt. I've had a few Newcastle fans saying he's a really good striker who would score goals for them if he gets the chances. But they will be willing to swap for Isak plus some money? I really doubt. Now, for me, if a team would offer around 28 million to 30 million for him, I would move him on. Now, I'm not sure if you're going to get that. I feel like a team is going to come with a 20 million offer, and I don't know if that is going to be tempting, because I don't see a reason for him to stay. If you're to ask me between him and Jesus, I would definitely keep Jesus. And if you're signing another striker and we still have Havertz there, we have 3 players in front of him in that position. So he's not really going to play at all. I think it's time to move on. I don't think that is surprising at all. He's also been here for quite a long time. I think he's playing around 2016 or something. He's been here a long time as well. So I think it's time to move on. Emil Smith-Rowe is one that I still feel like, can we keep him if possible? Like if he was completely great, like fully fit to play next season, we are going to be in the Carabao Cup, hopefully until the final stages. We're going to be in the FA Cup until the latter stages as well. Some Premier League games, can he come on? Can we trust him to come on for Odegaard for one game and rest Odegaard? He's a player who can play on the left wing. The season that he had with us in 2021, he was playing on the left wing. He was playing as a number 10. He was really good. So this is a player who can play as a number 8 when you need to attack, as a number 10 to cover for Odegaard, and on the left wing as well. I would love to keep him. I feel like he could still help us. But the problem is, does he want to stay? And do you trust him in terms of, okay, you're not going to play Odegaard in this game, particular game against Brighton, you're going to play Smith-Rowe. Do you trust him in terms of that? And is he willing to, be like a part-time player? Because Vieira is still there. He can play the Odegaard position. Left wing, we have a lot of players, and you're talking about buying a wing as well who can play on both sides. The number 8 position, if we sign a defensive midfielder and Rice is there and Trossard can play there and Havertz can play there, not going to get a lot of opportunities. But I'm hoping that next season you have many more competitions, and that will mean that Smith Rowe gets a lot of opportunities, because I still feel like he has the quality. The injuries have really ruined him. We've seen the likes of Nketiah playing more than Smith Rowe to make our decisions. And Smith Rowe, the last time he played regularly for us 5 games in a row, he was really good up until he got his injuries. So I don't know, man. Since Smith Rowe was really good, the likes of Trossard and Martinelli have emerged and overtaken him. So there's that as well. But personally, if you're to ask me, if you're not getting any substantial kind of money, I would keep him. I would really keep him, Smith Rowe. Now, Reece Nelson, we've also talked about a lot. He signed a new contract at the beginning of last season, or beginning of this season, sorry, and he pretty much deserved it. Even Nketiah, when he signed his contract, he deserved it. He had just scored a couple of goals against Chelsea. Nelson had a very good end to the season with those goals against Bournemouth and his contributions against Southampton in all those games. And they got rewarded with new contracts, but since then hasn't really worked out. There's some games where like Trossard came in for Martinelli or vice versa, and I'm like, maybe Nelson could have come on that wing for this game, like Aston Villa away, because they're playing a high line. I was thinking, that game take off Martinelli, bring on Nelson, but he brought on Trossard instead, and it's very tough to see him playing, even when you're thinking that he's going to help out Saka on that wing. Saka never not plays, or sometimes even bring in Vieira to play on the right side recently. So it's a very tough one. But for me, if you're to ask me between those 3 players, I would tell you Nelson and Nketiah. Try to sell them fast and keep Smith Rowe. Let me know what you make about those 3 players. I did a video thing talking about the Haaland boys. Now, there's these 2 players as well who were signed in 2021. When they were signed, I remember I said something on those Tavares and Lokonga videos. If it doesn't work out, they are young and we can move them on. It's not like signing like a Willian or a Petr Cech that if it doesn't work out, you can't take them anywhere and they're going to leave on a free. No, the Lokonga and Tavares signings, if they don't work, we can let them go. Now, it hasn't worked up until now. And I can't see Tavares returning to Arsenal. We have too many good defenders and we are being linked to a few more. Lokonga, again, I still don't think he's going to fit in the Arsenal team, especially if Partey stays. Jorginho's already signed a new contract. Rice is there. We've been linked to players like Zubimendi. Why is Lokonga going to fit in? So for me, I would try to cash in on them. I don't think you're going to get too much money for them. I don't remember how much we signed them. I think one was signed for around 12 million, another one like 20. I don't remember which one was which. I think Tavares was the one that signed for less. So if you can get the same amount of money we signed Tavares for, I don't think you're going to get that. And Lokonga, if you can get like a total of 25 million for both of them, I think that would be great. But it's going to be very hard to get that kind of money for that level of player. It's going to be very hard. Kieran Tierney is another one, another left back. The way we play differently in some kind of games, and Kivia is being allowed to push forward on that left wing. Tierney would fit there, but my biggest problem with Tierney over the last 2-3 years is the injuries. He's been injured a lot. Even in Sociedad, this one has been injured a lot. But again, how much would we get for Kieran Tierney if you're to sell him right now? I don't think you're going to get anything more than 15 million. So I don't know. I mean, if you put all that all together, 10 million, 10 million, 8 million, 10 million is going to get to like 50, 60 million, and that you can use it to get another player. So let's see. Which one of those players would you sell? We've also talked about Ramsdale. Did I miss any? Not really. And obviously, look, Cedric and Elneny are moving on as well. There's this one as well, this final one on Trossard. This is what Ray Parlour had to say about Trossard. Ray Parlour, as part of his message to Arsenal's current team, I have to mention Leandro Trossard. I'm so pleased Mikhailo Mudryk went to Chelsea. Otherwise, we wouldn't have got you. You have scored such vital goals, which reminds me of how Freddie Ljungberg would pop up and bang. Those players are so vital. You have stepped up so well. So this is a direct message from Parlour, who actually played with Ljungberg. Ljungberg was very good in terms of picking up those big goals and assists. I think he's the one who took the shot and Wiltord scored in 2002. He popped up with big moments this season. The Trossard, the goal against Everton away, the equalizer against Bayern Munich to make it 2-2, the goal to take it to extra time against FC Porto. the win against Wolves, like he has scored some big games, big goals this season. And the reason why we've still been able to score a lot of goals and, do all that and win all those games, even without Martinelli scoring, is because of Trossard. Like, we missed those Martinelli and Jesus goals this season. They scored a few last season. So we needed someone like a Trossard to step up, and Trossard scored 1 goal last season in 4 months, and this season he's picked up a lot of numbers. He's now become a goal guy, not an assist guy. Last season he was an assist guy and not a goal guy. This days is switch it up. So very, very good signing. Him and Havertz have really helped us because we know the goals dried up for Martinelli and Jesus, and there was a time Odegaard and Saka's goals kind of dried up as well. So those two really helped us, especially this year. All those big wins, they were involved against West Ham, Burnley, and all those teams. So great words from Paul. I absolutely agree. Trossard is a very, very good signing, and I cannot wait to see what he does in the final game of the season and in next season as well. Let me know what you make about all that. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch up with you guys on the next